The broken image. Think of the word European. What images pop into your mind? For over a century, the history books, the movies, and our own collective imagination have painted a very specific picture. White skin. We assumed that white skin was the foundational trait, the original marker of identity, that appeared first to adapt to the northern climate. We assumed that other traits, like blonde hair and blue eyes, were simply the finishing touches, the inevitable results of those first, crucial adaptations to a pale reality. But everything we thought we knew about race, identity, and the story of the human face is wrong. Science has just fractured that historical mirror. Advances in ancient DNA sequencing are revealing a prehistoric world far more chaotic, diverse, and colorful than our textbooks ever admitted. It turns out, identity is not a monolith. It is a complex genetic lottery. And in the final days of the Ice Age, humanity entered a bizarre evolutionary intersection. An intersection where the map of the face was drawn backward. Imagine a human with dark, weathered skin and hair like charcoal. A face that you might identify as belonging to Africa. But then imagine looking into their eyes. They are not brown. They are an intense glowing blue. This is not science fiction. This is the new reality of prehistory. Ancient genetic analysis reveals a profound and stunning paradox. 7,000 years before the first white skin appears, the very first blue eyes were already staring out across the hunting grounds of Europe. Identity is about to get messy. We are going to unravel the eye revolution. We will track down the survivors of the Great Freeze, sequence the genetic mistake that created blue eyes, and uncover why white skin was actually one of the very last, and perhaps most surprising, acts in the human drama. If you want to read the real story written in our DNA, you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. You are watching Lost Origins, the inheritance of the Freeze. To understand this story, we first have to go back to the baseline. For 99% of human existence, we all shared the same phenotype. When modern humans walked out of Africa some 70,000 years ago, we were all essentially the same color. Dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes. This was the original human palette. And for a very long time, it was perfect. This combination provided maximum protection against the intense ultraviolet radiation of the African sun. But then, humanity pushed north. They entered the colder, cloudier, sun-starved climates of Europe and Asia. For thousands of years during the peak of the last ice age, these populations survived in relative isolation, battling giant mammoths and cave lions. They were the Western hunter-gatherers. These people are the ancestral base of this story. They were tough, they were survivors, and because their isolated environment didn't experience any significant new migrations for millennia, their genetic code became a fortress. In 2014, scientists sequencing the genome of an ancient skeleton found in the La Braña cave in Spain, dating back 7,000 years, decided to look past the bones. They wanted to know what these Ice Age survivors looked like. The genetic analysis sent shockwaves through the field of human evolution. The La Braña man did not look European at all. His DNA revealed genetic variants associated with very dark, African-like skin pigmentation. He was not pale. He was not white. But then, the computer analyzing his eye color variants flashed its result. Blue. High probability of intense blue eyes. The standard image of human history was shattered. If dark skin was still dominant 7,000 years ago, it means white skin did not exist yet. Not in Spain. Not in much of Europe. And yet, the very first blue eyes had already arrived. The paradoxical combination of dark skin and blue eyes was a common feature across the hunting grounds of prehistory. Evolution was operating on a different schedule than our textbooks suggested. But how? How do you get blue eyes from a dark genetic base? To understand the eye, the mutation in the fog, we need to clear up a massive scientific misconception. There is no such thing as blue pigment in the human eye. Your eyes are not blue because they are painted that way. The color of your eye is determined by the scattering of light. It is called Tyndall scattering. It is the exact same reason the sky appears blue. In brown eyes, the iris contains a lot of melanin, which absorbs most of the light, appearing dark. In blue eyes, the iris has almost no melanin. Instead of absorbing light, the structure of the iris scatters the short blue wavelengths back out, making the eye appear blue. Blue eyes are a biological optical illusion. They are a mistake in melanin production, and scientists think they can trace this mistake back to a single ancestor. Around 10,000 years ago, as the ice sheets were retreating from the northern hemisphere, an individual was born somewhere in the Middle East or the Caucasus. They were different. A random mutation had occurred in their genetic code. Specifically, a mutation in the OCA2 gene, which regulates melanin production in the eye. Crucially, this mutation did not break the gene entirely. It acted like a molecular dimmer switch, drastically reducing the amount of melanin allowed to enter the iris. This single ancestor was the patient zero of blue eyes, and because they survived in a relatively small isolated population group, this genetic anomaly didn't get diluted, it multiplied. Over generations, this mutation spread, particularly among the bands of Western hunter-gatherers who were expanding north to follow the melting ice. Identity, in the Mesolithic era, had just entered its first great intersection. You could look African, but have the eyes of the future. The paradox of dark skin and blue eyes was born in the mutation in the fog. But if dark skin was so efficient, why did white skin even need to evolve? The demographic invasion. For thousands of years, dark skin worked just fine in the northern climates of Europe. The idea that white skin was an inevitable rapid adaptation to cold weather is another massive oversimplification of human evolution. And we can prove it. We can look at other human populations like the Inuit in the high Arctic who have maintained dark skin for millennia. So why did it change in Europe? The answer lies in realizing that the peopling of Europe, just like the Amazon, was not a single event. It was not one group of people walking backward through time. For millennia, Europe belonged to the dark-skinned Western hunter-gatherers. But around 9,000 years ago, another massive event changed the genetics of the continent. A second wave of humanity arrived. This was not a military conquest. It was a demographic invasion. These newcomers came from the Near East and Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, and they brought with them a technology that would conquer the world: agriculture. They were the early European farmers. They replaced the ancient hunting grounds with fields of wheat and pens for sheep and cattle. The farmers outnumbered the original hunter-gatherers, slowly overwhelming them and taking their land. And crucially, these Anatolian farmers were different. They did not have dark skin. They carried genetic variants for significantly lighter olive-toned skin pigmentation. This demographic replacement is the true beginning of the palette shift in Europe. The ancient farmers did not have blue eyes. That trait came exclusively from the original hunter-gatherers, but the ancient farmers were the first large group to bring light skin into Europe in massive numbers. As these two groups mixed over generations, the genetic codes began to blend. The first human with olive skin and blue eyes likely appeared during this intersection some 8,000 years ago. But the intense white skin we see today was still thousands of years away. Because the final palette required one last unexpected act of demographic overwhelm: the white shift and the vitamin paradox. If light-skinned farmers had already arrived 9,000 years ago, why did it take thousands of years longer for the extreme white phenotype to dominate? Evolution is about balance. It's about energy. And in prehistoric Europe, the final pigment shift was triggered by a biological energy crisis. Dark skin, as we discussed, is brilliant at blocking ultraviolet radiation. But in high latitudes with low sunlight, blocking all UV is a lethal energy mistake. UV radiation is essential for human survival. It allows our bodies to synthesize vitamin D in the skin. We need vitamin D to absorb calcium, which we use to build strong bones. Without it, you get rickets, weak, deformed bones, which is an evolutionary death sentence. The Western hunter-gatherers got plenty of vitamin D from their diet. They ate a lot of fish and wild game, both rich sources. Their dark skin was not a hindrance to survival. But when the early European farmers conquered the continent, they destroyed this dietary balance. Farming provided a more stable food source, but it was also a nutritional disaster. A diet based mostly on grain contains almost zero vitamin D. Suddenly, a population relying on agriculture in a cloudy environment was facing a massive biological energy crisis. If you have dark skin and eat only grain in a northern climate, you are facing a slow death by vitamin D deficiency. This environmental pressure acted like a vice. A rare genetic mutation, this time on the SLC24A5 gene, acting as a molecular bleach, was already present in some of the light-skinned farmers. Under this intense nutritional pressure, individuals carrying this mutation were significantly more likely to survive and reproduce because their body could synthesize vitamin D far more efficiently in low light. The white phenotype, with pale skin, was natural selection on fast forward. It was not a marker of identity or intelligence. It was an energy-saving mutation that prevented the entire farming population from developing rickets. The transition to white skin was brutal and demographic. It coincided with the final wave of migration into Europe. The Yamnaya conquerors from the steppe, who brought with them additional light skin markers and the ability to drink raw milk, another vitamin D energy hack. The Great Palette Shift was complete. The face of the past had been bleached into the face of the future. The eye revolution had started 7,000 years earlier, but the pale canvas that would define Europeanness for a century had finally arrived, forged in the biological energy crisis of rickets. The reverse paradox. The impossible DNA of prehistory shatters our neat, linear definition of race and identity. Blue eyes did not evolve with white skin. They predated it by thousands of years. For millennia, the first European trait to appear, blue eyes, existed in a body that most people today would not recognize as European. And the last defining trait, white skin, appeared not as a result of cold, but as a biological energy patch to survive a nutritional disaster caused by the invention of farming. It forces us to look in the genetic mirror and ask profound questions. Why does this order of events feel so paradoxical? Why does it feel so unnatural to imagine a Mesolithic man with dark skin and blue eyes? It is because we are the victims of our own labels. We created the labels of race based on a flawed two-dimensional understanding of human prehistory. We assumed that the way we look today is the way we have always looked. DNA proves that identity is not a monolith. It is a mosaic. It is a constantly shifting, beautiful web of survival, chaotic migrations, random mutations, and biological compromise. The blue eyes that stare back at us from Mesolithic skeletons are a ghost lineage, a warning from the Ice Age fog. They remind us that the face of the future is always built on the broken image of the past. What do you think? Did the eye revolution completely change how you view your own identity or racial categories? Let us know in the comments below. If you want to continue uncovering the impossible truths hidden in our DNA, make sure to watch our documentary on the brutal tribe that wiped out early Europeans, or the lost origins of the pharaohs, right here on the screen. I am Thomas, And this is Lost Origins. Keep exploring, because the truth is never truly lost. It's just waiting to be sequenced.